let's launch right into it. So, and one thing I actually want to address, because one of the things I think Matt Walsh did a whole thing about this where he was berating the critics for being cowardly for not reviewing the film. And I will say this, having been around this space for a while, yeah, most critics are cowards. They don't want to go out of their way to talk about anything other than like the big mainstream movie that's opening in theaters. Whereas,
and anything that's non-threatening, let's be real. Like,
exactly.
Anything that will, cause them backlash, they don't want to touch.
Precisely. So like we would have reviewed the film sooner, except that I think they sent Alan, they emailed you like a link to watch the film, like the Friday, it opened on, I think the movie came out on Wednesday.
Yeah, the day after it premiered, they sent me an email saying if I wanted a link. And I go, yes, I want a link. Send that.
Yeah. So we would have gotten a review out faster, but then you, Dante, you messaged me and said, I personally want to review this movie. So let's get into it. I mean, we've got your review. Actually, wait, we can see it real quick. Let's share the screen. This is Dante's review that's on Film Threat right now. You can read the entire review. It's sort of two parts. Dante, I read your review. It's very thoughtful. I thought that you really went out of your way to, like there's even like, and not like we need to do this, but there's a trigger warning at the beginning, and we never do trigger warnings. But I kind of feel like knowing that any discussion of this topic comes with it like slings and arrows, like I'm sure we're getting, and you were mentioning, I didn't look, but apparently on social media, we're getting a lot of shit. But Dante, if you could, in your words, like tell us your review.
Yeah, man. I mean, to be honest with you, I've heard about this movie for a long time, and I was planning to watch it, but it wasn't like a real big, top 5 things to do on my list of things to watch, basically. So the reason why, though, I had more of an interest of it or in it now is because of the fact that I've read so many critics not wanting to review this movie, and I'm just sitting there thinking, what they're afraid of. Our job is to review movies, and leave our politics out of it, and review the material as is. Obviously, we're all going to have political biases. We're going to have social leanings here and there, and I completely understand that. But I think just to be completely afraid of this topic, and worry about the backlash of your career because you gave an opinion, that didn't sit well with me. So I wanted to review this movie, not to spark controversy. I didn't do it because I'm trying to, bring attention to myself. I just wanted to do it because, hey, you know what? I do take being a film critic serious. And I feel like people read our stuff because they want honesty. They don't read it because our politics align. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's people who do. People will watch, read, listen to, play video games. They'll do everything related to their politics. I get that. But I wanted this to be a conversation, And to be honest with you, I thought it was a really valid question. I'm not going to sit here and say what my political beliefs are in this because, again, it's about the film. It's not about me. But I just wanted to kind of spark the fire for other critics like, hey, man, just because, you don't agree with this topic doesn't mean it's not your job to review it,
And I think you mentioned earlier that you wanted to be tagged on Twitter. Are we getting shit on Twitter at the?
I'm kind of going through it. For the review itself, it's mostly supportive. Yes, you are not tagged on it.
No, the only reason why I said, if you need to tag me, it's because if people have questions, I will gladly answer your questions. I'm not going to shy away from this. I'm not going to, hide behind, my writing name. It's like, hey, you know what? If you have a question for me, just straight up ask me because I'm going to be straight up with you.
What's your Twitter, Dante?
So my Twitter handle is Cancel Dante. I know. But you know what? That's a whole nother topic, the whole cancellation thing. But and I did it as a joke a while back, you know what I mean? And hopefully, I don't get, Gina Serrano out here, because of the fact that I have this provocative, Twitter handle.
Well, what bothered me is, and this happened with Shut-In, when Shut-In came out. And by the way, the movie Shut-In, which is distributed by the Daily Wire, it was written by a female screenwriter, wrote this script, and it was on, I don't know if you're familiar with what the Blacklist is. The Blacklist are indie scripts that like got passed over, or like, hey, this movie should really get made. Why isn't this? So there's a group of people that publish what they call the Blacklist, which is a group list of screenplays like, hey, these are really good screenplays, you should make it. Well, the movie got made, independently financed, and then was distributed by the Daily Wire. But because people have so many political biases, they won't even review the movie for what it is. I mean, Shut-In is not even political. It's just, it's a really good indie thriller that actually won an award at Award This as Indie Thriller of the Year. So, and they also, Daily Wire has put out movies like The Hyperion, which is a superhero movie. There's no politics about it, nothing. And Gina Carano, Terror on the Prairie, her movie's coming out. It's a Western. It's a Western action movie. How are these movies political? They're just like, there's nothing really political in them. In this movie, and I will say, just to get into because I took some notes, I actually really enjoyed What Is a Woman quite a bit. I think that I think Matt Walsh is like, we can go to the format here. Matt Walsh he's sort of like, he's definitely intends to be a troll and a provocateur, but
absolutely, that's his whole MO.
And I really like his personality comes out in the documentary, right? In a way that like Morgan Spurlock or Michael Moore, it's like he's on a journey. He wants to answer a simple question. It's very easy. This should be easy to answer this question. And we're on this journey with him. But what I love, he's totally deadpan. He is way more of a comedian. He is as much a comedian as he is a political commentator, but in the style of like a Stephen Wright. I don't know if you're familiar with Stephen Wright.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
He's got that deadpan. Yeah, he's great. So, but what's interesting is, and I'll confess, because I'm a person that dropped out of college, who also went on to author 4 editions of a book that's required reading as part of independent film studies in college. So some of the dumbest people I've ever met have college degrees.
Right. I completely agree.
We've all run into those people that are total elitists that like throw up their degree. Like, it's like, my opinion is better than yours because this. Screw those people. I think they're full of crap. I've encountered them constantly in my career, in all the things that I've persevered, whether it's building up Film Threat, whether it's making movies, anything that almost anything I've done has been attacked in some way, and whatever, I don't care. But I those kind of people just always rub me the wrong way. So when you see like, my opinion is better than yours, that attitude, I can't stand that.
Well, let's be honest here. In the film, he is just asking a very basic question. You know what I mean? It's not like he's out there, asking for a thesis on biology. He's just asking the question, right?
Yeah, I was going to make that point. The brilliance of what Matt does in this is that's all he does is ask questions. The simplest question is in the title, but when he talks to these experts,
right,
all he's doing is asking a question. And for some reason, these guys and gals are put off by the question he's asking. And it's not necessarily the words of the question and how he orders them. It's the fact that he is the one asking the questions,
Exactly,
and that's what they ask him all the time. Why are you asking me this? But it's just a simple, reasonable question.
Yeah, and look, I get it. People who know Matt Walsh see him, like you said, as a provocateur, as a troll, right? And so I think a lot of times, maybe with an interview, and maybe I should have stated this in my review, is like, maybe the people who were being interviewed assumed they were being trolled, right? Like, maybe they thought, oh, well, he's trying to get me with a gotcha question, right? The thing is, though, like, What Is a Woman isn't a gotcha question. It's just, can you answer it, right? What blew me away were the 1,000 different responses to what a woman is. And, again, my politics aside, I think anyone watching this, if you went in with a clear mind, no bias, you would be thinking the same thing too. You would be wondering, why can't people answer this question, right?
It's an assault on common sense, basically.
Even that's controversial now. You can't say that, right? You can't say it's common sense, right? And I feel like this film does pull you in certain directions, sure. It does have a certain leaning, sure. But if you went into it, like I said, with no bias, you will start to at least ask some questions yourself, right? No matter what side it's on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm Gen X, right? I grew up with the whole exactly like, and I grew up with the whole like question everything. That was a mantra, like question everything. I'm going to question authority. I'm going to question the government. I'm going to question everything, right? I'm not going to tell you what, I'm not going to necessarily tell you the answer or tell you how to live your life, right? But I think it's valid to be able to ask questions. And I do love that what is explored in the film. I think there's a person named Scott in the movie who transitioned from woman to a man, who explains what it's like at 42 years old. That to me is the spine of the thesis of the movie, is this person saying, here's what happened to me. Here's my experience with all of this. An adult with some perspective, a person who lived her life as a lesbian and then decided to transition as an adult, which I think when you're an adult, that's a choice that you can make. And it's amazing to hear that experience. What I thought interested me was, I almost feel like you could do a sequel to this movie because it explored so many roads, but the one road it didn't explore, which I think is really worth discussing, is who are the parents? I mean, I'll say this as a parent, like my kids are grown and gone. They're in their 20s. They're gone. They didn't deal with anything like this in school. And I feel like my kids also missed social media. So they just social media was just a thing you could be on. And I was like, you don't need that. Do your homework. I want to say I was sort of like one of those asshole dads that like, no, we're not doing it. It's why? Because I said so. Yeah. We're not having cake for dessert. We have watermelon. You can have watermelon or you can have cantaloupe. We're not having cake for dessert every night. That's the other person's house. We're not doing that. I was very much like a dad that like that. So where are the parents of the kids that are being pulled into this? I kind of feel it's a loss of, you sit down and you talk to your children. You talk to your children, whether it's at dinner or whatever. And I feel like the sort of dinner conversation going away, I think, is a problem. And I think that I just really curious about the mindset of the parents that, in a way, because they have to be supportive, right? So,
well, you saw the story about the father in Canada who was arrested for his little girl daughter, and it's that kind of stuff, man. That needs. I feel like people need to, even if you're on the left side where you agree with everything related to this topic, you have to even admit this is getting to the point of ridiculousness, man. It's, you know what I mean? He got jail time for calling his little girl daughter. That's bad.
And refusing to let her take the puberty blocking medicine.
Right. And the fact that Canada will allow them to give it to her without his consent
and throw you in jail for it.
And throw you in jail blew my mind, man. Like that, to me, that was the most triggering part of the movie, was that topic right there.
Well, this is what I mean when I say like the parents, like I feel like there is a certain type of parent that is pushing their kids and supporting it. And it's mostly my just casual observation, TikTok, no father in the home, because you rarely see the dads being supportive of this. Like, we're not like, dads are not supportive. And it's mostly, I'm sorry, this may sound racist when I say this. I think it's mostly
white liberal women.
White liberal women. You took the words out of my mouth.
I mean,
so you're the racist one.
No, you know what? We all know this. But we can't say it, right? But we all knew that's who's, and I don't want to use the word push, but pushing their child at least to do this because it's trendy to have a trans kid, right?
Well,
but not only can you not say it, you can't even question it. That's the part that bugs me.
That's the worst part.
Well, it's like my girlfriend is a school teacher. She teaches fourth grade. I'm not going to say where. And there are like no white kids at her school. It's very much whites are in the minority there. And so it's mostly, Latino kids, black kids, whatever. She says, because we watched the movie together and she's like, I didn't realize this is happening. And then for a goof, I'll say, you got to watch these Libs of TikTok teacher videos because she'll watch them. She's like, it hasn't come to her school. She's more a school on, let's say, the east side of LA. None of this is present. And why? It's not rich white liberal women. And I think they're the ones pushing it. And it's like, for what? Virtue points? Like, I want to know the psychology of the parents pushing this. Because I will say this, like, puberty sucks. I remember going through puberty as a kid. Your hormones are raging. You feel weird. Your body's like, I'm getting hair. What? Like, it feels weird. It's a terrible time. You get into arguments with family and parents. Like, it's a weird thing. You got to get through puberty. And I remember when both my kids went through it, same thing. It's like, they're kind of crazy. They hate you for a while, right? So they want to hate and rebel. And then they come back. And they're like, it's a terrible thing to go through. But I think that if you are, maybe having feelings, you might be gay, whatever, like those things are going to come out later. You're going to realize that, although, you talk to some people who are gay and they're like, well, I knew it when I was 5. And that's totally fine. I feel like we've now gone from, acceptance of gays, and I will say, like, I grew up, my uncle, who was my hero growing up, was gay. And he was a decorated Vietnam War veteran who inspired me to move to California. Great guy, very liberal. And I could go on and on about how much I admired and loved him. So when he came out as gay, no one in the family cared. It was just like, so what? And this is my boyfriend. No one cared. But I feel like this stuff is like, these kids are not, like, I never let my kids make decisions that were other than like, do you want pizza or chicken fingers? Right. Here's your choices. But
if your kid can't choose to get a tattoo, they should be able to choose that, man. Like, or make. When I say choose that, I don't mean be trans. If they're trans, they're trans. Okay, I'm talking about giving them pharmaceuticals that will screw their body up. I mean, dude, we're talking before puberty. So your body goes through a lot of changes, man, between, 8 years old to 18 years old, like your body is still developing. And to have these weird, and that's a whole other topic, the pharmaceutical companies that are benefiting from all of these transitions, right? Because you have to keep buying the pills or the injections. Like, they don't stop, right? Like, it's an ongoing process.
I have a very sobering story about this.
Let's hear it.
When my daughter came to us, took her to the pediatrician, as good parents do, and he measured her height and basically said, your daughter is at the lower 15% in terms of height. She's going to be short. She is short today. He then tells me, hey, but we can fix that. We can give her puberty blockers. The exact drug, the exact hormones being touted in this Lupron. We can give it to her. It'll pause her ability to go into puberty. She'll grow more, and therefore she'll be she'll be taller. And I just remember sitting there thinking to myself, oh, hell no, we're not doing this. This drug, you do not mess around with a child's development.
No, you don't.
And this is for height. It's almost as if, and part of me was like, what, we're not allowed to have short people in this world anymore? Are short people now, are we marginalizing short people? And it just really got me angry at that point. And it was, it was being strong, I did talk it over thinking to myself, well, maybe I'm wrong. But, at some point it was like, there needs to be the next documentary needs to be about hormones, about synthetic hormones and what it's doing to us as people and as a society. Because I think this is the unknown. I think this is the next conspiracy that's going to happen. This is the next biological disaster that's going on.
It's not a conspiracy because the numbers are there, right? Yeah. Like, and here's the thing. if you're a drug company, you always want to kind of keep your drug pushing, right? So why not start them young, right? Why not have trans kids needing these pills and injections, right? There's a shady part of this that isn't being spoken about. And Matt touches on it, but he doesn't get too deep into it. And I think that, like you said, Alan, that does need to be explored in a big, big way, you know, about who's really benefiting from all of this, right?
Yeah, I venture to say that the rise of cancer in women is directly related to hormones, whether it's birth control or the myriad of other hormones we're pumping into our bodies. And that's my controversial statement of the day.
Well, can I make a quick comment? Like, in watching the film, I understood the motivations of the pharmaceutical companies. Money, right? Over the lifetime, you're basically signing up for a subscription model. You got to take these drugs for the rest of your life, right? Okay, so subscription model. And my stand on drugs, I don't take them even if I'm prescribed them. When I had my appendix out like 2 years ago, and I specifically, they're like, we can give you something for pain. And I'm like, I don't want anything, any pain medication that I could potentially be addicted to. I'll take some Tylenol 3. Other than that, you know what I did? I powered through the pain, and a week later I was fine. Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, so what? And I feel like just assigning a drug to solve a problem doesn't solve the problem. The harder thing is better diet and exercise. When my son was, I think he was like in 4th or 5th grade, one of his teachers, elementary school teacher, who I thought was very lazy. And my son was like hyperactive. Why? He's a boy at that age, like all boys are. And she wanted to give him Ritalin. And no, you're not going to drug my son because he's an inconvenience in your class. You improve as a teacher. Right. So, and my girlfriend, I'm very proud of her. She runs a tight ship. She is old school in terms of the way she teaches kids. So when she watches these teacher videos, she really cannot believe that those teachers have jobs and that they haven't been fired and that they're weak-willed. I think it's weak-willed people in leadership. But here's my larger point. I'll wrap up, and I want to get to your comments because the chat is on fire.
There's a lot of comments.
Chat is on fire, and everybody wants to cancel Dante. They all want to cancel you. So. Or they're gonna follow you on Twitter is what they're gonna do.
Story of my life, right?
It's okay. But here's the thing. I understand the motivations of the pharmaceutical companies. Money. I understand the motivations of the doctors and the psychologists and whatnot. Why? Money. I even understand the people who write books and do speeches because that's how they make money.
Exactly.
I understand all of those. It's like, okay, I understand your motivation. Your motivation is profit. What is the motivation of mostly liberal, white, single mothers? What is their motivation? Is it some validation on social media? Is it some narcissism? What is that? This is the thing. It's one of the things that like
it's a ball, man. To be honest with you.
The documentary is 90 minutes. How much can you explore? It kind of touches on a lot of important things. This is the one thing that I think he didn't touch on that I would like to see more about is what is the demographic of the people that are doing this? It's not poor people. It's not lower class, right? It's not the students that my girlfriend teaches. They're not being indoctrinated into this. So what is the personality makeup of the person that would do this?
So I'm going to cut you for a minute because you brought up the fact that, fathers aren't in the home, right? Yeah. So in the hood where I grew up, in the Black community, there were fathers that weren't there. I knew a lot of friends of mine who were raised by single mothers, right? The reason why you don't see it rampant happening in the hood or, like you said, poorer areas is because people in those areas can't afford the treatments. They can't afford medicine. People in the hood are just trying to eat every day. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's why they target these white liberal women who have, a nice little income coming in because they know that they can afford to transition their kids because they have the means, right? Don't get me wrong. There are Black kids in the hood. I'm sure there are trans kids in the hood, right? The problem is they don't have the money to transition. So they have to do it the hard way. They have to become an adult, make their own money, and if they still want to do it, they can do it. You see what I'm saying? And that's the thing, man. It's regardless of how you feel about the topic or the movie, these kids can't make these kind of decisions for themselves. They just cannot. I'm sorry, a 5-year-old cannot decide what gender they are.
Yeah. 5-year-olds should not be allowed to make decisions that will impact the rest of their lives.
At all.
Well, let's go to the comments because you're getting a lot of love here, Dante. Nate Winchester says, Dante James sounds like one of those classic rogue cop characters who plays by his own rule.
Yeah.
Leona Juniper says, why are 99.99999% of the people born in the wrong body confined to 5 nations only?
Yeah, his trip to Nairobi is.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great. Lord Blueberry the First for $5. Thank you for your super chat. Women are adult human females. Females are individuals who do or did or will or would, but for genetic anomalies produce eggs. Heather,
you just gave away the ending of the movie.
Yeah. And then Spidey Sensei 72 says, Juniper, wait, there are transracial people on TikTok too. How does that even make any sense? Yeah, there are people who tried to change their race. There's a very famous British white dude who transitioned to be Korean. You ever seen?
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, let's not forget Rachel Dolezal.
Sean Wickett says, word, Alan. Scott Miller, I need my pain. James D. Kirk. Fletcher Williams, the next Jurassic Park based on what they given hormones. And then Sean Wickett, messing around with kids is pure evil. I will say this. There's a very famous t-shirt that says don't mess with trans kids. And all the people that I see in my feed that support that, none of them have children. I know for a fact that none of them don't mess with trans kids. I have another t-shirt. How about don't mess with kids? That's all you need. Don't mess with kids at all. So, and Stephen Mack says, giving your kid Lupron is abuse. Not the Batman. No one was ever comfortable in their body during puberty. That's true. I remember being really uncomfortable and like it feels weird. You're like, and dude, no matter what I did, I tried to exercise and lift weights and stuff as a kid. I was gangly skinny no matter what I did while Dante was playing football.
I think the point here is why are we trying to protect children from adversity and pain? You know, kids need to learn how to overcome adversity. They need to learn to overcome pain to build their character, and yet we're coddling them, and we're raising weak children at that point.
Well, this is why, and I've gotten into discussions with friends of mine that are very religious, and talking about well, why does God allow pain and suffering in the world? And my answer to that is pain is how we learn. That is how we learn, whether it's, hey, don't touch a hot stove, or whether it's don't be in a toxic or abusive relationship, or whether it's anything that causes pain. It's like, okay, now you need to beat that video game level and make sure that you don't suffer from that kind of pain again, or just you need to overcome that rather than here's the pill, problem solved. And it's like, no, but yeah, you're right. Not the Batman. Great.
Yeah, we are defined by our pain at this point now, and are defined by our weaknesses. And it's like, no, we need to overcome these and be defined by our strength.
Fletcher Williams, cancel Chris's girlfriend. Sure, we could. I'll tell her she's canceled. Luke, she doesn't care about social media at all. Does not care. Barely posts anything. Luke Deckard, the professional human. Damn it, we got to cancel all 3 of them now. Yeah, we're all going to be canceled. Ian Manel says, white liberal women have taken kindness to insane extremes. There is a point at which kindness is apathy and abuse. I agree. Some of the people I don't trust when I'll meet people, especially in LA, the ones that are super nice, and you're like, yeah, I don't trust that. I don't trust that it's genuine. What do you want? So there you go. Let's see. We live in a clown world, says Masters of the Nerddom. Let's see. Foreskin Awakens, questioning. Fletcher Williams, cancel Allen. Spider Sensei, no, Phil W. Their guards were up because of political bias. Yeah, this is the thing that bugs me is so people won't even review the film, and this is maybe a complaint I have with the Daily Wire and the way they release this movie, because I know part of the intention of releasing this movie is to start a conversation. If they're pushing subs to their channel, the only way to see it is behind a paywall. what I would like, what would be nice is, why isn't this movie in theaters? We probably know why. Yeah. Because those theaters would receive threats. But yeah. I'm tired of the idea of living in fear, because it's not like any of us are transphobic, right? No. We especially if you go to Sundance, you're gonna hang out with lots of trans people. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. What's your name? Cool. That's what I'm gonna call you, by your name. And I don't care, how someone chooses to live their life. I'm always about, let your freak flag fly, but maybe not for kids. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of kids who, when they were children, got full SpongeBob SquarePants back tattoos. And when you talk to anybody anyone who gets a tattoo when they're like in high school or like as a teen, they usually regret it.
Usually always, yeah.
Yeah, they'll definitely regret it. But
and also, I just want to say for myself, honestly, I've said this for pretty much my whole life. I don't care what grown folks do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're grown, you do whatever you want to do. You eat what you want to eat. You drink what you want to drink. You sleep with whoever you want to sleep with, right? I don't care. I don't care what you do. You're an adult. You pay your taxes. You're an American. You should have the same rights that I have. Live your life, right? My issue, is only when it comes to children, because they're not of mind to make these decisions for themselves. They're just not.
I'll even go so far as to say, having raised 2 kids, they're fucking idiots. They're idiots. They don't know. Yeah. They believe in the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy, and they're idiots. And I don't really. It's not until they get out of single digits, and this is why I know they're idiots. They're the dumbest things in the world they would watch. They went through a phase of Barney the Dinosaur, and I could not stand that show. The sound of the show gave me a headache.
Oh,
I
Caillou.
could not stand that show.
Caillou is the worst. And I don't know why they love that show.
And they have no discerning. It was when my kids reach like their double-digit age, 10, 11, 12, and then they start to not like things. They're like, yeah, I don't like that, or I don't like. They start to have preferences. Then it's like, okay, now you're okay, beginning adult. You're beginning.
They're developing discernment.
Their discernment, exactly. But we got some super chats here, and we do have our special guest that'll be coming up. Might be a little bit late. Ryan of Ninja Badass, which opens today in theaters in limited release. It's out on Blu-ray and digital next week on the 14th. We're going to get to him, but we want to get through all your chat questions as we wrap up this conversation of What is a Woman. I want to thank Dante for coming on the show today. You got to come back, Dante.
For a while, it's great to finally get on the show. And
you got to come on again. We'll talk about.
I'm not going to be a stranger.
And follow Dante on Twitter at Cancel Dante. We got some super chats here, so let's get to them. Nerd Immunity for 179 pounds euros. These are parents suffering from Munchausen by proxy. Yeah, I that may be part of it. That's why I'm saying, like, I understand the motivations of all these other people, because they're making money, and money is motivation. They've created I like to say they've created a new vertical, right? This is just a new category of where you can make money, a whole new industry, just like, you create a problem to solve a problem. There you go. But I think
also social media kind of feeds into this idea.
Right.
Something's wrong with me. And then you get all these likes coming in, and that feels good. And I think that brings you into that Munchausen feeling.
Matthew Hammond for $4.99. Thank you for being brave and talking about this movie. You should watch the Hulu series Dope Sick with Michael Keaton about opioid prescription drug abuse. Yeah, but I don't know that we're brave. I feel like we're just doing our job. This isn't brave. It's not brave.
That's it.
And here's my other thing I would say about critics. If you're so afraid to review the movie, why don't you just give the movie a bad review? Here is your opportunity to now lend your opinion. Watch the film. Right. Like with any movie, I sit down. I don't even want to know who the director is or who made it. Like a lot of things, like people want to overpraise movies because they're made by certain people. And I think that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. Sit down, watch this movie. And you know what? Even discussing the movie. And so I'm really disappointed in some of my colleagues who should be stepping up and at least commenting on it, writing a review, something. Jake the Movie Geek says, my favorite part of the documentary was when Matt went to that African tribe. What did you guys think of that scene? It was great.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what it did? It gave you a perspective, like a world perspective of how people view this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you remember what life was like 5 years ago when this wasn't an issue?
I said less than 10 years ago, any one of us could have answered that question without flinching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just knew, right?
Bad Adam 12, pain and adversity builds your character. I agree with you. When I look back, and I was raised by a single mom who had to work, working single mom. I had newspaper routes when I was 9. I had to mow the lawn to make money. It's so funny, coming from the Midwest, it's like, yeah, you mow your own lawn. The idea of coming out here and nobody does it because you pay a lawn person. I'm like, no, to me, that was like exercise. I got exercise doing work, right? And there's not that sort of...
You learn to get paid. You learned how to work and get paid, right?
Exactly. But yeah, pain and adversity, I think pain and overcoming pain, that kind of builds you up because then you get bigger and bigger goals, whatever that is, So, and look, Film Threat says, what is an Allen? I do want to know what is an Allen. Crux Riaju Dub, I saw this last night. If you absolutely have no idea what is going on with the world, this is a pretty good watch. I like the parts where he interviewed the wolf person. Yeah, the wolf person wearing the Invader Zim t-shirt. That was really interesting. But I look and I just look and truthfully, I feel empathy for people going through this. Gender dysphoria is a real thing. I feel like people going through this, these are people that through whatever circumstances, whatnot, they're going through something. I just don't know that the go-to for children necessarily should be drugs as the go-to immediately. Excuse me. Jeff Brooks for $4.99 says, for thousands of years, there was never confusion of what a man or woman was. So funny how in the most enlightened time, we are lying to people. MK1001 says, now following Dante. Thanks. Yes, follow Dante at Cancel Dante. Dante, you should quote tweet the review and then make a comment on it. That way you can be bullied by tons of people online. Wouldn't you love that on a Friday?
You know what? It's in the name, right?
Nate Winchester, the lesson of Finding Nemo, if you let nothing happen to him, then nothing will ever happen for him. Well, there you go. Let's see. Reese Corinne, What is a Woman is pretty good. Fairly put, except for a bias towards Christianity. I would love someone to do a documentary in the exact same steps and style as Matt's, but asking, what is God? That would be a great, there's a friend of mine. So a friend of mine made a documentary that's kind of like what you're asking. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's directed by Roger Nygaard, and it's a very good doc. And I can't remember the name right now. Can you look up Roger Nygaard right now? It's like that, Reese Corinne. And I want to make sure we get that in. Jeff Brooks, did we do this one? Yeah.
We do, okay.
But let's wrap up here because we have a special guest that's going to be joining us shortly. Dante, first of all, thank you for joining us on the show.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here.
And I appreciate that you're taking the step forward to dude, we need to talk about this. I mean, Bill Maher recently actually talked about it, and his whole thing was we can ask questions. Why is this happening? That is
and again, Bill Maher is liberal. People want to say that, oh, he's a Republican now. See, that's the problem. If we start questioning, we're Republicans all of a sudden, right?
Right.
I wanted to be clear. I have no political leanings. I despise Democrats and Republicans alike. I don't care about either side. So for me, I'm coming at this just from my own point of view. And I think if more people did that, if they came to these kind of controversial things with their own point of view and not their leanings, right? I think we can have conversations about it, right?
Well, Dante, you've always said, what was your Twitter bio thing about that kind of made a reference to Thanos? Perfect.
Oh yeah, just balance. I'm not left or right. I'm perfectly balanced. That's all things should be, right? The quote from Thanos, right? But he's right. Balance is important.
Well, it's I've always felt that way. I've always been kind of middle of the road, sort of center left, but the left is kind of batshit now, if you ask me personally. I think this is someone who's mostly.
See, I think both sides are batshit at this point.
Agreed. But I always sort of look at it's okay, who's the best candidate? What does the country need right now? Sometimes I'll vote based on an issue, but I want to give myself. I'm not solidly one or the other because I want options. I want options to be able to think for myself. which is something that I think is very, very Gen X. But I want to say, Dante, you got to come back on the show to review more movies and talk with us. We're going to be doing more live streams. We're doing a show on Wednesday called Hollywood on the Rocks. If you can join, I'll talk to you off. But follow Dante at Cancel Dante on Twitter, and it's in the name. It's in the name. Yeah, that's awesome. And I hope you're in an Airbnb right now.
I am, man. At least for the next 2 weeks. So
Sweet.
Yeah. In Koreatown, by the way.
Oh, that's a great area. At least you get decent food there. All right, Dante. Thanks.
Thanks,
we'll
Dante.
Talk to you soon. Later. Thanks for the review. Awesome. Take care.
Oh, and the documentary is The Truth About Marriage.